The millionaire finds his abandoned son playing with a poor girl. What happens next will move everyone. You won't believe what happens when... The city was alive that morning. The sound of traffic, vendors shouting, and hurried footsteps filled the streets. Inside a sleek black car, Alexander Cole, one of the most powerful businessmen in the country, sat silently, staring out the tinted window. He was on his way to another meeting, another deal, another day of pretending that his wealth made him happy. The car slowed down near a crowded intersection. Children were playing in the dirt by the sidewalk, their laughter piercing through the hum of the city. Alexander's gaze drifted aimlessly toward them until his heart skipped a beat. Among the children, a little boy, barefoot, messy-haired, wearing torn clothes, caught his attention. There was something hauntingly familiar about him. The boy's eyes, they were the same deep blue as his own. Alexander leaned forward. "Stop the car," he said suddenly. The driver hesitated. "Sir, this isn't a safe..." "Stop, now!" The car halted, and Alexander stepped out, ignoring the driver's protests. The pavement was cracked, the air smelled of dust and oil, but he barely noticed. His entire attention was fixed on the boy. The child was playing with a girl, small, delicate, her smile bright despite the dirt on her face. She laughed as the boy built a small house out of cardboard and stones. Together, they looked like two lost souls who had found a small world of joy in the middle of chaos. Alexander took a slow step forward, then another. His heartbeat echoed in his ears. The boy looked up, and their eyes met. For a moment, time stopped. The boy froze, clutching the cardboard toy in his small hands. Alexander's throat tightened. His chest burned with a feeling he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. He whispered, almost to himself, "It can't be." The little girl noticed him and stepped protectively in front of the boy. "Do you want something, sir?" she asked, her voice trembling but brave. Alexander blinked, trying to find words. "No, I was just passing by." But the truth was written all over his face. The resemblance was undeniable. The shape of the nose, the curve of the jaw, the same scar on the left eyebrow. It was like looking at a reflection from years ago. Memories hit him like a storm. The night he left home, the crying of a baby, the bitter argument with the woman he once loved. He had buried that pain under layers of success, thinking it would fade. But now, standing in front of that child, the walls he'd built began to crumble. The little girl tugged the boy's hand. "Come on. Let's go," she whispered. "Rich people don't talk to us." The words cut deep. Alexander wanted to speak, to ask the boy's name, but his voice wouldn't come. He just stood there, watching as the two children walked away down the narrow street, hand in hand, laughing again, disappearing into the crowd. For the first time in years, the millionaire felt poor. He didn't know it yet, but that single encounter would change his life and the lives of those two children forever. That night, Alexander couldn't sleep. He sat alone in his luxurious penthouse, surrounded by silence and glass walls that revealed the glowing skyline of the city. But for the first time, that view, the very symbol of his success, felt empty. He poured himself a drink, his trembling hand making the ice rattle inside the glass. Each sip tasted bitter, like regret. He couldn't stop seeing that boy's face, those eyes, those same eyes. He walked to his study, where a framed photo sat hidden behind stacks of papers. He picked it up slowly. The picture was old, a younger version of himself, a beautiful woman with kind eyes, and a newborn baby wrapped in a blue blanket. "Evelyn," he whispered. Her name still felt sacred on his tongue, even after all these years. Memories he had buried deep began to resurface. Flashback, 11 years ago. The rain poured heavily as Alexander stormed out of the small apartment, slamming the door behind him. Evelyn, still holding their crying baby, ran after him, her hair soaked, her voice desperate. "Alex, please, you can't just walk away like this." He turned, his face hardened with pride. "I told you, Evelyn, I can't live like this anymore. I'm not meant to be poor. I'm meant for more." Tears streamed down her cheeks. And what about your son? What about us? He looked away, unable to face her eyes. You'll be fine. You always find a way. Then he left, stepping into the storm, into the life of ambition that would one day make him rich and completely alone. Back to the present. Alexander clenched the photo in his hands, his vision blurring with tears. He had told himself that Evelyn had moved on, that his son was better off without him. But now, seeing that boy on the street, he knew he had been lying to himself all along. He walked toward the large window, watching the endless city lights below. How many years had he wasted chasing money while his own blood struggled to survive? He pressed his forehead against the glass and whispered, "My son, how could I let you grow up like that?" The guilt tore through him like a blade. He had everything, cars, penthouses, power, yet the one thing he truly needed, he had thrown away. He sat down at his desk, opening his laptop. The cursor blinked on an empty search bar. He typed, "Evelyn Carter, missing records." Then, with shaking hands, "homeless children in downtown area." But no results could ease the ache in his heart. For the first time, Alexander Cole, the man who once believed money could buy anything, realized there was one thing wealth could never purchase: forgiveness. He closed his eyes, his chest tightening. Tomorrow, he swore, he would go back to that same street. He had to find the boy. He had to find his son. And deep down, Alexander knew. This time, he wouldn't run away. The morning light broke through the clouds, painting the grey streets with pale gold. For Eli, the boy Alexander had seen, it was just another day in a world that had forgotten him. He woke up under a torn blanket beside an abandoned building, the air cold and damp. Next to him, curled up with a small smile on her face, was Leah, his best friend, the girl who had become his only family. Leah stretched, rubbing her sleepy eyes. "Morning, Eli." Eli smiled faintly. "Morning. You hungry?" She laughed softly. "When am I not?" They both stood, brushing dust off their worn clothes. The city was waking up. Vendors opening stalls, cars honking, strangers rushing by without a glance. To most people they were invisible, but to each other they were everything. Eli picked up an old plastic bag where he kept a few things: a broken toy car, a piece of chalk, and a photo he never showed anyone. The photo was torn, the edges faded, but it showed a woman holding a baby with eyes just like his. Leah peeked over his shoulder. "Is that your mom again?" He nodded quietly. "Yeah, I don't remember her face well, just this picture. But I think she was kind." Leah smiled. "Then she'd be proud of you. You're kind too." Her words made him blush slightly. For all the pain they lived with, Leah always found a way to make him smile. They spent the morning near a bakery, waiting for leftovers. Sometimes the owner gave them scraps, other times just cold stares. Today, luck wasn't on their side. Eli's stomach growled. Leah giggled. "Shh, it'll hear you," she whispered, as if hunger was some playful monster. They wandered to a nearby park, their favorite place. There, among the trees and laughter of children with clean clothes and shiny shoes, they drew dreams on the pavement with chalk. Leah drew a big house. "This is where we'll live someday. You'll have your own room and I'll have mine." Eli chuckled. "And a kitchen full of food," she nodded. "And a big window so we can see the stars at night." He looked at her, his voice soft. "Do you really think that'll happen?" Leah didn't hesitate. "Of course. Good things always find good people." Eli wanted to believe her. He really did. As the sun began to set, they sat under a bridge, sharing a small piece of bread they'd found. Leah tore it in half. "Here, you get the bigger piece. You're taller." He frowned. "No, we share it equally." Their laughter echoed through the underpass, warm and pure despite the cold world around them. But above them, hidden behind tinted glass, a black car had stopped again. Inside, Alexander Cole watched silently, his chest tight. He saw the same kindness, the same strength, traits he once had before greed stole them away. The little girl's words from yesterday replayed in his mind. "Rich people don't talk to us." And he whispered to himself, voice cracking, "Then maybe it's time that I do." That night, As Eli and Leah fell asleep beneath the stars, unaware of the man watching over them, fate quietly shifted. The next sunrise would bring a meeting that would change everything for all three of them. The next morning, the sky was pale and heavy with fog. The city hadn't fully awakened yet, just the sound of distant traffic and the occasional bark of a stray dog. Alexander Cole stood at the corner of the same street he had visited 2 days ago. He wore no suit today, just simple clothes, jeans, a plain shirt, a jacket. He didn't want to look like the man he used to be. He just wanted to be a man. He spotted them quickly. Eli and Leah were sitting on the curb, sharing an apple, laughing at something only they could understand. For a moment, Alexander just watched. The way the boy smiled, the way his hair fell over his eyes, the way he helped the little girl tear the fruit so she'd get the bigger piece. Every movement tore at Alexander's heart. He took a deep breath and walked closer. Leah noticed him first. She grabbed Eli's hand and stood up fast. "It's him again," she whispered. Eli's eyes narrowed. "What do you want?" Alexander stopped a few feet away, his voice soft and unsure. "I'm sorry if I scared you before. I wanted to make sure you two were all right." Leah frowned. "Why would you care? Nobody cares." The words hit him like stones. Maybe some people should." He slowly reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small paper bag. "Here," he said, placing it on the ground between them. "It's breakfast, fresh bread, some fruit, and water." The children stared at the bag suspiciously. Eli finally asked, "Why are you giving us this?" Alexander hesitated. He couldn't say, "Because I think you're my son." Instead, he said, "Because no one should start their day hungry." Leah crouched down and opened the bag carefully. The smell of warm bread filled the air. Her face lit up, but she looked at Eli before taking anything. Eli nodded slightly. "Thank you, sir." Alexander smiled for the first time in years. "You can call me Alex." He sat on the curb near them, unsure what to do next. The children ate slowly, stealing glances at him. He noticed the way Eli protected Leah, the way he placed his arm around her shoulder, as if shielding her from the world. "You two take care of each other, huh?" Alexander said softly. Eli nodded. "She's my family." Something inside Alexander broke. He forced a smile. "That's good. Family is everything." For a while they just sat there in silence, 3 lives tied together by destiny, pretending it was just a casual morning. When the bag was empty, Alexander stood up. "I'll see you again, okay?" Eli shrugged. "If you want." As he turned to leave, Leah called out, "Hey, Mr. Alex!" He looked back. She grinned. "Thanks for breakfast." He smiled faintly. "You're welcome, sweetheart." Then he walked away. But his heart stayed behind, sitting on that cold curb with the 2 children who had unknowingly reopened a door he thought was sealed forever. That night, as Alexander lay awake in his empty penthouse, the echo of Leah's laughter filled his mind. For the first time in years, he felt something that money could never buy: purpose. He whispered to the dark, "Tomorrow, I'll bring more than bread." The morning air was crisp, tinged with the faint smell of wet asphalt. Alexander parked his sleek black car a few streets away, letting it idle as he watched Eli and Leah from the shadows. Today, he wasn't just bringing breakfast. He had decided he would invite them to his home, a bold, almost reckless choice. But something inside him insisted that it was the only way. He approached slowly, hands raised in a gesture of peace. "Good morning," he said gently. "I brought more food, and, a place where you can stay if you want." The children froze. Eli stepped in front of Leah protectively. "Why would you do that?" His voice was cautious, wary, a mixture of hunger, anger, and fear. Alexander swallowed, struggling to find the right words. "Because I want to help. I know it might sound strange, but I promise I'm not here to hurt you." Leah's big brown eyes studied him carefully. "Why should we trust you?" He looked down at her, seeing not just a child, but a soul that had been strong long before life gave her a reason to be. "Because I know what it's like to be alone, and I don't want either of you to be alone anymore." Eli shook his head. "I don't need anyone. Nobody wants us." Alexander's chest tightened. He knelt slowly to meet the boy's gaze. I'm not nobody. I'm someone who made mistakes a long time ago, big mistakes, but I want to fix them. Starting with you. For a long moment, Eli said nothing. He just stared, searching Alexander's face for lies, for trickery. Finally, Leah stepped forward. I think he means it. And I don't want to live like this forever. Eli hesitated. His small hand brushed against Leah's. He looked up at Alexander, his eyes narrowed but curious. We can come. Alexander nodded, careful to keep his voice calm. If you want. You don't have to say yes now, but the offer stands. A safe place, food, a bed. His voice cracked slightly. And family. The word hung in the air. Family. A concept so distant, so impossible, yet suddenly tangible. Eli glanced at Leah, then back at Alexander. Slowly, he nodded. Okay, we'll try it. A mixture of relief and hope surged through Alexander's chest. He extended his hand to Eli, who hesitated before taking it. Then he turned to Leah. She smiled, grabbing his other hand. Together, the three of them walked toward the car. Every step was cautious, yet filled with the unspoken understanding that nothing would ever be the same again. Alexander looked down at the two children, his heart full and heavy at once. He whispered under his breath, I will never let you go. I will make up for every moment lost. Outside, the city continued its chaotic rhythm, unaware that inside a black car, a father, his long-lost son, and a brave little girl were beginning a journey that would change all of their lives forever. The mansion was enormous, gleaming in the afternoon sunlight, its polished floors reflecting the warmth of the day. To Eli and Leah, it felt like stepping into a different world, one filled with light, space, and comfort they had never imagined. Eli's small hand gripped Alexander's tightly, his eyes wide as they walked through the grand hallway. The chandeliers glittered above them, and paintings of unknown people stared down silently. This is all yours? Eli finally asked, voice low, almost disbelieving. Alexander shook his head with a faint smile. Not yet. This house is mine, but you two will be a part of it now. Slowly, you'll see that it can be a home. Leah's gaze wandered toward a large window overlooking the garden. And there's space to play, she whispered, eyes shining. Eli relaxed slightly. The word home still felt foreign, but the warmth in Alexander's voice made it almost real. First meal together. Alexander led them to the kitchen, where he had prepared a simple meal. Pancakes, fruit, and milk. It wasn't fancy, but it was clean and abundant. Eli and Leah sat across from him, hesitant at first, unsure of how to act in this new world of plenty. You can eat as much as you want, Alexander said gently. No need to hide food or share quietly. Here, you're safe. Eli stared at the pancakes for a long moment, then broke into a small smile. I never had breakfast like this. Leah nudged him playfully. Then eat fast. Don't waste it. For the first time, laughter echoed in the mansion, shy, small, but genuine. Alexander felt a warmth in his chest, a tiny spark of hope that this connection could grow into something real. Exploring the mansion. After breakfast, Alexander gave them a tour. Eli marveled at the library, running his fingers along the leather-bound books. Leah explored the sunroom, laughing as the sunlight painted patterns on the floor. This is amazing, Eli whispered. I've never seen anything like it. Alexander knelt beside him. And it's yours too if you choose to stay. You don't have to be afraid anymore. Eli looked at him carefully. I just don't want to be tricked. People like us, they get used and forgotten. Alexander's eyes softened. I promise I won't forget. I won't leave. You're part of my life now. Leah hugged Alexander tightly. I like him, she whispered to Eli. I think he really means it. Eli hesitated, then nodded slightly. Okay, I'll try. A quiet moment. That evening, Alexander sat on the porch with a cup of tea while the children played in the garden. He watched them, silently promising himself that he would never let greed, fear, or ambition overshadow love again. For the first time in years, he felt what it meant to be a parent, not in status or wealth, but in care, presence, and protection. And though the journey ahead would be filled with challenges, doubt, and moments of fear, Alexander knew one thing clearly. This was the start of a family that would heal all the wounds of the past. The mansion was quiet as night fell, the golden glow of lamps reflecting off polished floors. Outside, the city hummed softly, but inside, an unfamiliar stillness filled the air, a silence that both comforted and unnerved Eli and Leah. Alexander had prepared a small bedroom for them, cozy and warm, with blankets soft enough to make them forget, for a moment, the cold streets they had once called home. Eli sat on the edge of the bed, his small hands clutching the blanket. "It's too big," he whispered. Leah giggled nervously. "I think it's perfect. Look at the window. We can see the whole city." Eli's wide eyes reflected the city lights outside, but unease lingered in his expression. "I don't know. What if someone takes it away? What if he leaves?" Alexander's voice came softly from the doorway. "I won't leave. This is your home now. You don't have to worry about anything." Eli looked up at him, searching the man's face for truth. Alexander knelt beside the bed and gently placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "I made mistakes before, terrible ones. But this time, I'm not going anywhere. I promise you." Leah crawled onto the bed beside Eli, tugging the blanket up around them both. "See? He really means it. I can feel it. Stories in the dark." As the children lay in bed, Alexander pulled up a chair beside them. He began telling stories. Small, simple tales of adventures, bravery, and hope. His deep voice filled the room, warm and steady, wrapping around the children like a protective blanket. Eli's fears began to melt as he listened. The rhythm of Alexander's voice, a strange but comforting presence. Leah snuggled closer, her eyes wide with wonder and excitement. "You used to tell stories to someone else?" Eli asked softly. Alexander smiled faintly. "A long time ago. I forgot how important they were. But tonight, I want to start over, with you two." The children listened intently, hanging on every word. Slowly, Eli's small fingers intertwined with Leah's. He glanced at Alexander and whispered, maybe this can be our home." A silent promise hours passed and sleep finally claimed them. Alexander watched them for a while, his heart heavy with both regret and hope. These children were fragile, but they were also strong. They had survived hardship and cruelty, yet their hearts remained unbroken. He leaned back in the chair, closing his eyes, silently making a vow. "I will protect them. I will care for them. I will be the father I should have been from the beginning." The mansion was quiet once more, but for the first time it felt alive, filled with love, trust, and the beginnings of a family that had been missing for far too long. Outside, the city lights twinkled like distant stars, unaware that inside a boy, a girl, and a man were taking the first steps toward healing old wounds and building a future together. The morning sun filtered softly through the curtains, casting a golden glow across the mansion. Alexander sat at his desk, staring at a pile of old documents and photos he had managed to collect in the past few days. Each page brought fragments of memories, pieces of a past he had tried to forget. He picked up an old photograph, the one he had carried in his wallet for years. A newborn Eli cradled in Evelyn's arms, eyes wide and curious, looking straight at the camera. His chest tightened. Beside him, a nurse's report he had found online confirmed something he had dared only to hope. "This child is mine." Confronting the truth, Alexander's hands shook as he reread the details. Date of birth, mother's name, hospital records, every detail aligned perfectly. His heart raced. He had never imagined finding his son in such circumstances, on the street, surviving hunger and hardship. He closed his eyes, whispering to himself, "All these years, and you were out there alive. You survived." Memories of the night he left flooded back. The cold rain, the cries, the bitter choice to abandon them. Guilt tore through him like a storm. He knew he had to tell Eli the truth. But how? How could he explain years of absence, mistakes, and failures? The revelation. Later that afternoon, Alexander found Eli and Leah playing in the garden. The boy glanced up, his smile cautious, not knowing the storm of emotions about to hit him. "Eli, there's something you need to know," Alexander said carefully. The boy froze. "What is it?" Alexander kneeled to meet his gaze, taking a deep breath. You are my son, your mother. She loved you more than anything. I made a terrible mistake leaving you behind." Eli blinked. Confusion, shock, anger, all mixed into one. He pulled back slightly, staring at Alexander as if trying to see through the man's words. You're my dad?" Alexander nodded slowly, tears welling in his eyes. "Yes, I am, and I promise I will never leave you again. I want to make up for every year I lost." Leah stepped forward, placing her hand gently on Eli's shoulder. "He really means it," she whispered softly. A mixture of emotions. Eli's small hands trembled. He wanted to run, to yell, to reject the man who had abandoned him for so long. But something in Alexander's eyes, the raw honesty, the overwhelming guilt, the undeniable love, made him pause. I don't know if I can trust you," Eli finally said, his voice breaking. Alexander swallowed, nodding. "I understand, and I won't force you. But I will be here, every day, and I will prove to you that I can be the father you deserve." Eli looked at Leah, who nodded encouragingly. Slowly he reached out his hand, and Alexander took it, holding it tightly. For a moment time stood still. 3 hearts, fractured, scarred, but full of hope, connected in silence. The beginning of healing. That day, Alexander realized that wealth and power could never replace love, presence, or trust. But he also knew that even the deepest wounds could begin to heal. He whispered to himself, voice trembling, "I will not fail you again. This time I am yours." And for the first time in over a decade, Alexander felt a sense of purpose, stronger than ambition. A purpose called family. The mansion was quiet that evening, but inside Alexander Cole's mind, chaos raged. He walked through the grand halls, hands in his pockets, staring at the polished floors as memories of the past clawed at him. Every failure, every abandoned moment with his son, every harsh word he had ever spoken to Evelyn, they all resurfaced with relentless intensity. He paused before a mirror, staring at his reflection. The man in the glass looked wealthy, powerful, untouchable. Yet Alexander knew the truth. He was guilty. Guilty for leaving his son. Guilty for years of absence. Guilty for letting ambition blind him to the most important thing in life, family. "How could I have been so blind?" he thought, voice barely a whisper. "All this wealth, all this power, and I failed the one thing that mattered most." A difficult conversation. Later that night, Alexander found Eli sitting alone in the study, staring at the city lights outside the window. The boy's posture was tense, guarded, a reminder that trust had to be earned, not demanded. He approached slowly. "Eli, can we talk?" The boy turned, eyes wary. "What about?" Alexander sighed deeply, pulling a chair beside him. "About everything. My mistakes, my absence, my failures as a father." Eli looked away, his jaw tight. "You don't know what it's like. To be alone, to be hungry, to be invisible." Alexander's throat tightened. "I know I can't truly understand, not fully, but I want to. I want to try. I can't erase the past, but I can be here now. I can protect you, care for you, love you, if you let me." Eli's gaze softened slightly, but his voice remained guarded. "And why should I believe you?" Alexander looked him in the eyes. "Because I will show you every single day. Actions, not words. I will never leave you again. I swear it." Small steps toward trust. Eli didn't respond immediately. Instead, he studied Alexander silently, then finally nodded. "Okay, I'll see." Alexander's heart swelled. It wasn't forgiveness yet. It wasn't unconditional trust. But it was a start, a fragile step toward healing. Later, as they both watched the city lights flicker in the darkness, Alexander whispered softly, "I will carry this guilt with me, as a reminder, as motivation. I will be better. I have to be." And in the quiet, Eli leaned slightly closer, a small gesture that told Alexander he had been heard. Reflection. Alexander returned to his room, exhausted but determined. He knew the journey ahead would be difficult, rebuilding trust, nurturing love, and righting the wrongs of the past. Yet for the first time, the weight of guilt felt purposeful. It was not just punishment, it was a guide, a reminder that every action from this day forward could begin to heal what he had once broken. I am his father now, Alexander thought, voice steady, and I will never let him down again. The morning sun streamed through the mansion windows, warming the rooms in a soft golden light. Alexander woke early, determination coursing through him like electricity. Today, he decided, would be the first day of real change, not just promises but actions. He found Eli and Leah in the garden, carefully planting small flowers in an old wooden box. "Morning," he said gently. "Morning," Eli muttered, eyes still wary, though the tension from yesterday had eased slightly. Alexander knelt beside them, his hands brushing the dirt as he helped plant another flower. "These flowers, they'll grow strong, just like you two," he said softly. Leah's face lit up. "Really? You think we'll grow strong?" He smiled. "I know you will. And I'll be here to help every step of the way." A new routine. Over the next days, Alexander established small but meaningful routines. He prepared healthy meals for the children, helped Eli learn reading and writing, and created a cozy corner in the mansion for Leah to play and explore safely. At first, Eli resisted, clinging to old habits from the streets, mistrust, caution, and the fear of being abandoned. But Alexander remained patient, never raising his voice, always keeping a gentle, steady presence. One afternoon, Eli asked quietly, "Why are you doing all this? Why do you care?" Alexander paused, kneeling to meet his gaze. "Because you're my son, and because nobody should ever feel alone again if I can help it. Not you, not Leah, and not any child who deserves love." Eli nodded slowly, the first real flicker of trust in his eyes. Leah's joy. Leah, ever perceptive, noticed the change immediately. She ran to Alexander, throwing her arms around his waist. "Thank you, Mr. Alex. This is the best home ever." Alexander chuckled, ruffling her hair gently. "I'm glad you like it, but remember, it's not just about the house or food. It's about being together. That's what makes it home." Leah's eyes sparkled. "Then it really is home. A promise for the future." That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Alexander watched Eli and Leah play in the garden, their laughter ringing out like music. His heart ached with the weight of the past, but also swelled with hope. He whispered softly to himself, almost as if the walls could hear, "This is only the beginning. I will protect them, guide them, and love them. No more mistakes, no more regrets, only hope." The city outside continued its relentless rhythm, unaware of the quiet transformation happening in the mansion. Inside, a father, his long-lost son, and a brave little girl were beginning to heal, to build trust, and to embrace the life they had always deserved. The morning headlines hit like a tidal wave. Alexander sat in his study, scrolling through countless news articles and social media posts. Words screamed from every screen. Abandoned son of millionaire found on street. Cole family scandal. Why did he leave his child? He felt the weight of public judgment pressing down, as if every mistake he had ever made had come alive to haunt him. Eli peeked into the study, holding Leah's hand. "Dad, people are saying mean things about you." Alexander took a deep breath, forcing calm into his voice. "Yes, they are, but words don't define us. Actions do, and I will show everyone what family really means." The children's perspective. Eli frowned, struggling to understand. "But they know everything. They'll never stop saying we're just poor kids he abandoned." Alexander kneeled beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "The world can be cruel, but the world doesn't get to decide who we are. You and Leah are safe with me. That's what matters." Leah, ever perceptive, smiled and hugged both Alexander and Eli. "We're together. That's enough, right?" Alexander smiled faintly, heart swelling. Yes, that's more than enough. A public declaration. Determined to face the storm, Alexander called a press conference. Cameras flashed as he stepped onto the stage, flanked by Eli and Leah. The media buzzed, eager to dissect every word. He cleared his throat, voice steady and strong. I have made mistakes, terrible mistakes. But today, I am here to take responsibility, not for appearances, not for wealth or fame, but because I have a family that deserves my love and protection. Eli and Leah held his hands tightly. Alexander continued, "This child is my son. This girl is my daughter in every way that matters. And from this day forward, we will face the world together, not as a millionaire and street children, but as a family." A glimpse of respect. The crowd was silent for a moment, then slowly. Some nodded, some murmured. Criticism lingered, but a few eyes softened. Alexander knew the road ahead would not be easy, but the first step toward acceptance, for both the world and his son, had been taken. Back in the mansion, Alexander closed the front door and turned to Eli and Leah. You see, facing the world isn't about fighting everyone's opinions. It's about standing together as a family. Eli nodded, a small but genuine smile forming. I think we can do that." Leah grinned. "Yeah, we're unstoppable now." Alexander looked at them, hope and determination filling his eyes. Despite the judgments, the whispers, the past mistakes, they had each other. And for the first time in years, Alexander felt ready to face anything the world could throw at them. The press conference from the previous day had left a storm raging across every social media platform, talk show, and news outlet. Critics were relentless. Headlines screamed accusations. Cole abandoned his child. Too late for redemption. How can he claim family now? Alexander sat in his study, Eli and Leah by his side. The children were nervous, sensing the weight of the world's judgment pressing down on them. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. It doesn't matter what they say. What matters is what we do every single day. Let's show them the truth. Standing strong. That afternoon, Alexander held a second press conference, this time not to apologize, but to defend the life he was building with Eli and Leah. Cameras flashed as reporters leaned forward, waiting for the first word. Alexander stepped up, gaze firm. I made mistakes in the past. I left my son when I should have protected him. I failed him, and I carry that guilt every day. He paused, letting the words settle. But yesterday, I took him and this brave little girl into my home. They are my family. My son is my son. And I will dedicate my life to giving them the love, care, and protection they deserve. A message of action. Alexander continued, his voice unwavering. This is not about wealth or status. It is about responsibility, accountability, and love. I cannot change the past, but I can fight for their future. I will ensure that no child under my care ever feels abandoned again. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some reporters exchanged skeptical glances, but others seemed moved by his sincerity. Eli tugged on his hand. Dad, you really mean it, don't you? Alexander looked down at him, eyes soft. I swear, I've never meant anything more in my life. Leah smiled, squeezing his hand. Then we're a real family now, together. The first victory. After the press conference, the mansion felt different. The walls seemed warmer, filled not just with luxury, but with resilience and love. Alexander knew the world might still judge, still criticize, but he had taken the first step to prove that family could rise above mistakes. That night, as Eli and Leah fell asleep in their rooms, Alexander stayed in the study reflecting. His guilt remained, but it was tempered by action. Love was stronger than judgment. Commitment was louder than criticism. He whispered to himself, a vow and a prayer combined. No matter what the world says, I will protect them. I will be their father. I will be their home. And with that promise, Alexander Cole felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope, burning bright and unwavering, lighting the path forward for the family he had finally reclaimed. The morning sun rose slowly over the city, casting warm light across the mansion and garden. Alexander stood on the balcony, Eli and Leah beside him, watching the bustling streets below. This city, it's full of people who need help, isn't it? Eli asked, his eyes curious. Alexander nodded. Yes, there are many children like you once were, children who are alone, hungry and unseen, but we can change that, together. Leah's face lit up. You mean we can help them? Yes, Alexander said firmly. We'll create a place where they're safe, where they can learn, play, and grow. A home for children who need love and guidance. Taking action. Alexander immediately began planning. He rented a small building downtown, hiring caregivers, teachers, and staff. He ensured it was clean, bright, and welcoming, a place where no child would feel invisible. Eli and Leah helped him decorate the rooms with bright colors and playful touches, from murals on the walls to small libraries filled with books. Alexander watched them work, pride and warmth filling his chest. This is amazing, Eli whispered, looking around the newly painted room. I wish I had a place like this before. Alexander knelt beside him. And now you can help make sure other kids don't have to go through what you did. This is your chance to make a difference. Leah hugged Alexander tightly. We'll do it together. We're a team. The first children arrive. The day the first children arrived, Eli and Leah were there to greet them. Some were shy, scared, or angry. Others had smiles that hadn't been seen in months. Alexander knelt, greeting each child personally. You're safe here. You belong here, and together we will make this place a home for everyone. Eli held a small boy's hand, showing him a bookshelf filled with storybooks. Leah helped a girl pick out toys. Alexander watched, tears in his eyes. The family he had found, the life he had rebuilt, it was spreading hope to others. A family united. That night, as the mansion and the new center grew quiet, Alexander, Eli, and Leah sat together in the garden. Do you think we're really making a difference? Eli asked. Alexander smiled softly. Every child we help, every life we touch, yes, we're making a difference. And this is only the beginning. Leah leaned on his shoulder. I'm glad we're together. We're a real family now. Alexander kissed her forehead gently. Yes, we are, and we'll never let anyone take that away. For the first time in years, Alexander felt truly whole. Not because of wealth or status, but because he had found family, purpose, and the chance to change lives, starting with the children he loved most. And as the stars shone overhead, the promise of a new beginning, full of love, hope, and redemption, shone brighter than ever. The sun was high in the sky, but the warmth in the mansion could not reach the chill that Eli still carried in his heart. Though he lived in comfort, with food and safety, old fears and doubts lingered, the scars of years spent abandoned on the streets. Alexander watched quietly as Eli avoided his gaze during breakfast. The boy picked at his food, silent and tense. Eli, Alexander began gently, talk to me. You don't have to be afraid. Eli looked down at the plate, voice barely above a whisper. What if you leave? What if one day you decide I'm not worth your time? Alexander's chest tightened. He knelt to meet Eli's eyes, voice steady and full of emotion. I made that mistake once, Eli, and I regret it every day, but I promise I will never leave you again. You are my son, you are my family, and I will prove it every single day. Small steps of healing. For the next few days, Alexander focused on earning Eli's trust through consistent actions. He joined him in reading lessons, helped him solve puzzles, and even played games in the garden. Never rushing, never demanding, always patient. Eli began to soften, though slowly. A small smile appeared when Alexander laughed at a joke, and he no longer flinched when Alexander reached out to guide him. Leah, always perceptive, noticed the small victories. See, Eli, he's not going anywhere, she whispered one afternoon, handing Eli a flower from the garden. Eli hesitated, then accepted it. Maybe I can believe him, he murmured. A moment of vulnerability. One evening, As the mansion grew quiet, Eli sat on the porch steps, staring at the fading sunset. Alexander joined him, bringing a warm cup of cocoa. "You know," Eli said softly, "I've been thinking about Mom and how different things could have been." Alexander placed a hand on his shoulder. "I think about her too, every day, and about the mistakes I made. But what matters now is what we do together. We can't change the past, but we can shape the future together." Eli nodded, eyes glistening. I want to try. I want to trust you, even if it's hard." Alexander's throat tightened. "That's all I ask, Eli, step by step. I will meet you at every step, no matter how long it takes. Trust in progress." That night, Eli and Leah slept closer to Alexander than ever before, a subtle but meaningful sign of growing trust. Alexander sat in the living room, reflecting on the day. He knew the path ahead would still be filled with challenges, doubts, fears, and lingering memories of abandonment. But he also knew that trust could grow with patience, love, and unwavering commitment. "Every step we take together is a victory," he thought. "Every smile, every small gesture, every word of belief is a bridge from fear to family." And as the stars glimmered outside the mansion windows, Alexander felt hope blossoming anew. Hope that, with time, Eli would fully understand the depth of his father's love and the unbreakable bond of their family. The mansion had finally settled into a quiet rhythm. Eli and Leah were growing comfortable in their new home, laughter echoing through the hallways, painting life into the once empty rooms. But the past has a way of catching up, no matter how tightly you hold the present. Alexander was reviewing plans for the children's center when his assistant entered, face pale and anxious. "Sir, there's someone here to see you. He says it's urgent." Before Alexander could respond, the door swung open. A man in a sharp suit, familiar and unwelcome, stepped inside. His smile was cold, calculating, a reflection of the ambition and greed Alexander had once known too well. "Alexander Cole," the man said, voice dripping with mockery. "I heard about your little reunion. Quite the story. But don't think your past mistakes can be buried with some charity project." Alexander's jaw tightened. "What do you want?" "I'm here to remind you," the man said smoothly, "that the world doesn't forgive easily. People will remember what you abandoned, and they'll use it. Don't get too comfortable with your new little family." Tension in the mansion. Later that day, Alexander shared the confrontation with Eli and Leah. The children listened intently, sensing the seriousness of the threat. "Does this mean they'll try to take me away?" Eli asked, fear flickering in his eyes. Alexander shook his head firmly. "No one can take you from me. Not now. Not ever. But it does mean we have to be careful, and we have to stay united. That's our strength. Family." Leah grabbed his hand tightly. "Then we'll fight together. Right, Eli?" Eli nodded slowly, determination replacing fear. "Right. We're a team. A father's resolve." That evening, Alexander sat alone in his study, reflecting on the day. He knew the man who had visited wasn't merely a threat to his reputation. He was a symbol of everything Alexander had left behind: greed, ambition, and a life that once valued wealth over family. He whispered to himself, voice firm and resolute, "I will protect them. I will defend our family. I will not let the past take away the future we've built." He looked out the window at the city lights, then down at the quiet mansion, where Eli and Leah slept peacefully. The sight steeled his heart. "They are my family now," he thought. "And I will face whatever comes, because love is stronger than fear." A new determination. The next morning, Alexander rose earlier than ever, determined to safeguard his children and secure their future. Every step he took, every decision he made, would now carry the weight of protection, responsibility, and unwavering love. The past may have returned, but Alexander was no longer the man who abandoned his son. He was a father, ready to fight for trust, family, and the life he had finally reclaimed. And in the heart of the mansion, Eli and Leah were blissfully unaware of the storm that loomed outside. Yet Alexander knew one truth: together they could weather anything. The morning air was crisp, but tension hung over the mansion like a storm cloud. Alexander had sensed it coming. Subtle threats, whispered rumors, and shadowy figures watching from a distance. Now it had escalated. A letter arrived that morning, unsigned and untraceable. Its contents were brief, menacing. You think your past can stay buried? Think again. Watch closely. Alexander read it twice, then crumpled it slowly in his hand. He turned to Eli and Leah, who had been watching curiously. "Don't worry," he said firmly, placing a hand on each of their shoulders. "Some people from my past are unhappy with the choices I've made, but they can't touch us, not if we stay together." Eli's doubts. Later that day, Eli approached Alexander cautiously. "Dad, what if they really try to take me or take Leah?" Alexander knelt to meet his son's eyes, voice steady. "Then we fight, but not with anger or violence. We fight with our unity, our trust, and our love. We're a family, and that is stronger than anything they can throw at us." Eli frowned but nodded slowly. I hope you're right." Leah, ever optimistic, tugged at Eli's sleeve. "We have Dad. We can do this." First confrontation. By evening, Alexander discovered that one of his former business rivals had been spreading false rumors to the media, attempting to tarnish his reputation and intimidate him into giving up custody of Eli. Alexander's eyes burned with resolve. "This isn't just about me," he said aloud. "It's about protecting them, my children, my family, and I will not let anyone hurt them." He picked up the phone and began contacting trusted allies, lawyers, and security teams, preparing to shield his family from the external threat. Strength in unity. That night, Alexander, Eli, and Leah sat together in the garden under the stars. The mansion was quiet, but their hearts were aware of the danger lingering outside. "Are you scared?" Alexander asked gently. Eli hesitated. "A little, but I trust you, Dad. I know you'll keep us safe." Leah nodded enthusiastically. "We can face anything together." Alexander smiled, his heart swelling. "Exactly. No matter what comes, we face it as a family. That is our greatest strength." And in that quiet moment, under the blanket of stars, the bond between father and children grew stronger, ready to withstand the challenges the world would throw at them. The mansion hummed with life and warmth, the echoes of laughter now mixing with determination. Though shadows of Alexander's past still lingered outside the gates, inside, Eli, Leah, and Alexander were building a bond that no threat could easily shake. That morning, Alexander organized a small outing for the children, a picnic in the garden of the mansion. The air was fresh, the flowers in full bloom, and the children's laughter rang freely. "This is amazing," Leah exclaimed, twirling around in the sunshine. Eli smiled, finally relaxed enough to let go of lingering fears. "Yeah, I never thought life could feel like this." Alexander knelt between them. "It's real, and it's ours. Nothing can take it away as long as we stay together." Shared challenges. Over the next few days, Alexander involved Eli and Leah in preparations for the Children's Center, teaching them small responsibilities and decisions. Eli helped organize the books in the library corner, carefully arranging them so every child could find something they loved. Leah helped paint murals, her creativity bringing joy to every wall. Alexander watched them work, a profound sense of pride swelling in his chest. "You're both amazing," he said softly. Eli glanced up, a shy smile appearing. We just want to help, like you said." Leah nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah, we're a team, remember?" Alexander reached for both their hands. "Yes, a team, and together nothing can break us." A quiet victory. That evening, Alexander and the children sat by the fireplace. The world outside still whispered rumors, and Alexander knew threats could return at any time. But in the warmth of the mansion, the three of them shared stories, jokes, and dreams for the future. Eli leaned against Alexander's shoulder, and Leah curled up at his feet. For the first time in years, Alexander felt an unshakable truth. Love, presence, and trust were stronger than any outside danger. No matter what the world says, no matter the past, no matter the threats, he thought, we are a family, and that bond cannot be broken. and as the firelight danced across their faces, the mansion felt alive, not just with wealth, but with resilience, hope, and the undeniable strength of a family united. The morning began like any other, sunlight streaming through the mansion's tall windows, Eli and Leah laughing in the garden, Alexander reviewing plans for the children's center. But peace can be fragile. A sudden phone call shattered the calm. The voice on the other end was sharp, urgent. "Mr. Cole, your ex-partner has taken drastic steps. He's threatening to expose sensitive information that could jeopardize custody rights and your children's safety." Alexander's chest tightened. He ended the call and turned to find Eli and Leah watching him, eyes wide. "What's wrong, Dad?" Eli asked, concern lacing his voice. Alexander took a deep breath, kneeling to their level. "There's someone from my past trying to create trouble, but we will face this. Together, I will protect you no matter what." A frightening day. By mid-afternoon, the first signs of the threat arrived. Anonymous letters slipped under the door, photos of Alexander's past business dealings, and threatening messages. Eli's hands trembled as he held one of the letters. This is scary," he whispered. Leah clutched Alexander's arm. "Will we be okay?" Alexander hugged them both tightly. "Yes, we'll be okay. Fear cannot break us. Only trust, love, and unity can keep us strong, and we have that." Testing courage. The evening brought the most critical moment. A legal notice arrived, challenging Alexander's guardianship of Eli and questioning the legitimacy of the children's center. For the first time, Eli's doubt returned. "Dad, what if they succeed? What if I lose everything?" Alexander looked at him, voice calm but firm. "Then we fight, but not just for what's ours, for what's right. And whatever happens, I will never, ever abandon you. That is my promise." Eli swallowed hard, then nodded, taking a step closer. "Okay, I trust you. I really do." Family united. That night, the three of them sat together in the mansion study, planning their next steps. Strategy papers, legal documents, and emergency contacts spread across the table. But it was more than just planning. It was a demonstration of unity. Alexander looked at Eli and Leah, feeling the bond stronger than ever. No matter what comes, threats, rumors, challenges, we face it as one, a family. And we will win, not with anger, but with courage, love, and truth. Leah smiled brightly. "We can do this together." Eli's hesitant smile grew firmer. "Yes, together." And as the night settled over the mansion, the Cole family, tested, resilient, and united, faced the storm with unwavering determination. The sun rose gently over the mansion, casting a golden glow across the gardens and windows. The storm that had haunted them for weeks was finally easing. After tireless work with lawyers, trusted allies, and a careful strategy, Alexander had managed to neutralize the threats from his past. False accusations were dismissed, custody rights affirmed, and the children's center secured. He walked through the mansion, where Eli and Leah played in the garden, their laughter bright and carefree. The sight brought a deep, profound relief to his heart. The danger had passed, and the family was safe. A moment of reflection. Alexander paused in the study, looking at photographs of the children, candid moments of joy, discovery, and trust. We've survived the past. We've faced fear. And now, we can finally just be together, he thought, eyes glistening. He called Eli and Leah inside. "Come here, both of you." The children ran into the room, curious. "I want you to know," Alexander began, voice steady and full of emotion, "that nothing, no threat, no rumor, no mistake from the past can take away what we've built together. We are safe, we are a family, and we belong to each other." Eli smiled. The cautious edge in his eyes finally softened. "I believe you, Dad. I really do." Leah threw her arms around Alexander, laughter spilling over. "And we're the happiest family ever. A new beginning." That evening, Alexander, Eli, and Leah sat in the garden under the stars, the mansion glowing softly behind them. "This is our life now," Alexander said, voice gentle, full of love, trust, and hope. Nothing can change that. We've fought together, we've healed together, and we'll continue to grow together. Eli leaned against him. I feel safe and happy for the first time. Leah kissed Alexander's cheek. We're really a family, right? Alexander smiled, tears brimming in his eyes. Yes, my children, we are truly a family, but forever. And in that quiet, magical night, the mansion was alive with laughter, warmth, and the promise of endless tomorrows. A story of loss, struggle, and fear had transformed into one of victory, healing, and unbreakable family bonds. The morning sun spilled golden light across the mansion, casting a warm glow on the flowers in the garden. Birds sang cheerfully, as if celebrating the peace that had finally settled over the Cole family. Alexander watched Eli and Leah run through the garden, laughter echoing like music. For the first time in years, there were no shadows of fear, no reminders of past mistakes, only the present and the promise of the future. A family united. Alexander knelt on the grass, gathering the children into his arms. Look at you two, he said, voice filled with awe. You've grown so strong, and now we can truly enjoy life together. Eli smiled, confidence shining in his eyes. I trust you, Dad. I always will. Leah hugged him tightly. And I love you forever. Alexander's heart swelled with emotion. I love you both more than anything in the world, and I promise we will always face everything together. The Children's Center. The morning continued with a joyful visit to the Children's Center they had built together. Smiles, laughter, and happy chatter filled the air as children explored their new home, a safe place to grow, learn, and dream. Eli showed a younger boy how to arrange books in the library, while Leah helped a girl pick a favorite toy. Alexander watched them, pride and love coursing through him. This is what matters, he thought. Family, love, trust, and the chance to help others grow. A promise of forever. That evening, the family sat on the balcony watching the sunset. The mansion, once a silent reminder of past loneliness, was now alive with warmth, laughter, and hope. Alexander took both Eli and Leah's hands. No matter what comes in life, we face it together. Our past doesn't define us, our love does, and I promise as your father that our family will always be a home for each other. Eli and Leah smiled, hearts full of trust and happiness. Forever, Eli whispered. Forever, Leah echoed. Alexander held them close. The weight of the past lifted at last. The mansion, the city, the world outside, none of it mattered more than the love they shared. And in that perfect golden moment, Alexander Cole knew one undeniable truth. They had finally found their happily ever after.